Hi, this is Michael Buffer, and welcome to the BoxHard Podcast.
Hello, everyone. This is Mikey Garcia.
It's the monster from the swamps, Regis Rougarou Prograis.
Hey, what's up? This is King Carlos Molina, former IBF world champ.
This is Michael, the Bounty Hunter, 2012 Olympian and your people's champ.
This is Charlie Edwards, flyweight champion of the world.
This is Fast Eddie Chambers, and you're listening to the BoxHard Podcast with my main man, Joey Coastman.
Hello everybody and welcome to episode 331 of the BoxHard Podcast. I'm your host Joey Coastman. I'm joined as ever by former heavyweight world title challenger Mr. Fast Eddie Chambers. Eddie, how you doing, my man?
I'm good, my man. How about you?
Always good when speaking with you, Eddie. Always good when speaking with you. Diving straight into the review part. We're going to waste no time. We're going to start at York Hall, the mecca of UK boxing. Bethnal Green, London, of course, over here at MTK Global Show. I didn't actually watch it, so I apologise if anyone's listening to me and they're, hoping to find out what I felt the fights were like. I didn't see them, so I apologise. Just running through the two main fights, really. Danny Dignam with a win, now 14-0 with a draw. He was able to knock out in 6 rounds Grant Dennis, who's now 17-4. Dennis down 3 times in that 6th round there. It was for the WBO European middleweight title. The shock on the card is Lee McGregor, 11-0 with a draw. A points draw over 10 rounds there against Diego Alberto Ruiz, who I think was an Argentinian fighter who'd been stopped by Michael Conlon. The fight was made at Super Bantam as well. It was the referee here, Kieran McCann, that scored the contest as well as refereed it. So he actually scored it, obviously 5 rounds to 5, so a complete split. A lot of people saying, though, that McGregor should have won the fight clearly and it was a bad score from the referee. Obviously, I can sympathise with the referee a tiny bit. Obviously, judging, obviously scoring and refereeing a fight at the same time, I guess, can be quite challenging. However, Kieran McCann is one of the younger referees out of all the ones we've got here in Britain, and that, I think, is his 72nd fight he's judged. So it's not like he's got tons and tons and tons of experience being a judge. So I just want to throw that in there. But perhaps this was one of the occasions where the fighter in question, I guess Lee McGregor, would have benefited from an extra 2 judges who were not reffing the fight, of course, just solely judging. Perhaps that was the case, but again, I haven't seen it, and what I've heard, the feedback is that he deserved to win the fight. Moving out now to the Alexandra Palace in London. Over here, this one, an Eddie Hearn show on DAZN. This is where we really have to speak about some scorecards. Let's talk about the undercard first. A win for Hopi Price, now 7-0. A TKO in the 4th round against Ricardo Roman, who's now 14-13 with 3 draws. Roman down in the 1st round and once in round 4. A win as well for Johnny Fisher, now 5-0. The first time he's gone the distance as well, over 6 rounds against the Spanish heavyweight champion, Gabriel Enguma. I think he's actually said Gabriel Enjuema, I want to say. But anyway, Enjuema now, he is 10-12. A tough guy, obviously. Been, I think it was 8 or 10 rounds with Oscar Rivas. If Johnny Fisher were to be able to put him away, it would have looked good, but he didn't do it. He was cut as well from a head clash, I think it was in the 1st round, Johnny Fisher. It was quite a bad cut. So that was kind of good to see him go to rounds there, over 6 rounds. What else do we have? Austin Williams with a win. He's now 10-0, a TKO in round 6 against Javier Maciel, who's now 33-16. I think he's coming off I think he's now got about 10 losses in a row. He was down in the 1st round and twice in the 6th round. Ellie Scotney with a win as well, a 10-round unanimous decision over 2-minute rounds, of course. Cut on her left eye in round 3, deducted a point as well in the fight. I can't remember which round it was. Very fortunate to pick up the win. I was quite shocked it was... in fact, I wasn't shocked. I was kind of expecting it to go to her, but to see all 3 judges have it unanimously to her, very, very... I'm not sure if surprising is the right word, but Yeah, it has to be. I'm surprised that all three judges felt she won the fight. It was for the vacant WBA Intercontinental Female Super Bantamweight title. Georgelina Guanini, the opponent, now 9-4 with 2 draws. Former world champion, of course, about 2 weights down. Ellie Scottney, yeah, bad performance from her. Really, really was. Felix Cash with a win. Again, this one was a little bit controversial. He was down in round 2. He was down in round 10. He also had a point deducted in round 10, so he lost that final round there 10-7. However, still was able to sweep the fight unanimously. All 3 judges siding with Felix Cash there for the vacant WBC International Middleweight title against the undefeated Russian Magomed Madiev, who I said on last week's show just sounds like a murderer or something. I apologise. But anyways, Magomed was an animal. He was a beast. He looked a bit like Khabib and or a little bit of a cross between Khabib and Beterbiev. And yeah, I think he's a good fighter. I'd like to see him again. At the very least, he needs to be, back on a big show in a big fight. Because Felix Cash, I don't know what to make of it. I mean, he was coming off of quite a not a long layoff, but, he wasn't really able to capitalise on his brilliant win over Denzel Bentley, and he's gone straight in with this guy here. And I don't think it's been a whole year, but it's been a good few months now, and I don't know if it was any ring rust or something, but he just didn't look as good, as I would have expected him to look. Again, we didn't know anything about the Russian. Maybe he was better than what we expected him to be, but when Felix Cash is starting fight week saying he looked at the Eubank Jr. win over Liam Williams, he had Williams down 4 times, obviously, in the fight. When he said he watched it and felt that he would take Eubank out and look good doing it, and then he performs like that, he's down twice. Not really a good look, but he does remain undefeated. 15-0, he gets a new belt to add to the collection. Moving on to the main event, another very controversial one. Daniel Jacobs now 37-4. He lost a split decision over 12 rounds, no title on the line, against Britain's very own and friend of the show, John Ryder, now 31-5. Again, I've got to be honest, I absolutely love John Ryder. John Ryder's a guy who's been hard done by on the cards against Callum Smith for the world title, hard done by on the cards against Rocky Fielding, hard done by on the cards against Jack Armfield. Had a really close fight with Billy Joe Saunders. He has never really had the rub of the green, never really had any luck. But none of that has anything to do with Daniel Jacobs, and he shouldn't have to pay the price. Anyway, I'm going to just sum up the fight, really. I'm not going to go round by round, but I felt that early in the fight, Jacobs was way more active than Ryder. Ryder was unable to really establish any kind of rhythm. I think it was a quite fast-paced fight, and I felt it seemed to suit Jacobs more. I felt Jacobs was a lot sharper than Ryder. He had better footwork. He had better judge of distance. He also, I felt, was better at fighting on the inside and getting his combinations off up close with that hand speed. I was unsure what Ryder's tactics were, and then that was pretty much how I saw it for the first 6 rounds. It was pretty much the same again and again. I didn't give Ryder really a round in the first 6. I don't think, maybe one round. In the second half of the fight, I mean, it was almost as if after round 6 ended, Jacobs just slipped out the ring and let his twin brother get in instead. He started taking big shots in round 7 from John Ryder, who finished the round sensationally. He started kind of slow, and then he just picked up the pace as the round went on, and he came on so strong in the second half of the round, and he did exactly the same thing in round 8. Again, I'd say I probably gave the first 6 to Jacobs, maybe 5-1 to Jacobs, but I certainly gave round 7 and round 8 to Ryder. Round 9, Ryder started started working well, I think, in the early part of the round, but the pressure kind of slowed, and I didn't think he finished as strong as he had done in the previous 2 rounds, 7 and 8. It was a close round 9 on my card. Most people gave it to Ryder. I'm not sure. Round 10 I gave to Jacobs. I think he got back to jabbing and moving, and Ryder looked a little bit stagnant. Ryder, I felt, would need a knockout at that stage. And then round 11 and 12, I actually gave 11 to Ryder. I thought that even though he won the round, he still needs a knockout on my card. And round 12, I actually gave to Jacobs. Ryder, I felt, was a little bit disappointing in the final round. I felt he needed to just completely empty the tank and leave nothing, or leave it all in the ring, as they say. So on my card, unofficially, very unofficially, I gave it maybe 9-3 to Jacobs, maybe 8-4 to Jacobs, something like that. I don't think I could give Ryder 5 rounds. I certainly couldn't give him 6, and I certainly couldn't give him 7, like 2 of the judges, I believe, did. I think it was a French judge and a British judge, if I'm not mistaken. No, sorry, it was a French judge and I think an American judge that gave it to Ryder. But yeah, I've got to be honest, I didn't see it like that at all. And as I say, he's had it against him so many times. There's not really a guy in boxing that I'd like to see win a decision he didn't deserve more than John Ryder. I just want to say that I don't want anyone to win a decision that they don't deserve. But Ryder is probably the one guy that deserves it most. But I am a little bit bitter about it, just a tiny bit. I don't want to go in too hard. I love the fact that John has done this, to go from British title level being knocked out against Nick Blackwell to come and beat such a great fighter like Danny Jacobs. I mean, he's only been beaten by Canelo Golovkin and Dmitry Pirog. These guys are on a completely different scale to John Ryder. But yeah, I will say once again, Danny Jacobs hasn't looked his old self since moving up to 168. But yeah, I mean, I want to see him back. I hope that's not the end of it for him. I wouldn't mind seeing a rematch, but I don't really see the point from John Ryder's point of view in having the rematch. But yeah, for me, I think Jacobs won it quite clear. But a lot of people that were actually at the fight say that they saw it differently. So maybe on the TV it looked different. I don't know, but yeah, I'm not sure. I'm really not sure. And as I say, a split decision over 12 rounds there. 7-5, 7-5 for Ryder and 7-5 the other way for Jacobs. I think it was the British judge who gave it to Jacobs. That's it, though, for the review part of the show. The final thing for us to do before we wrap up part 1 is to welcome our special guest on this week's podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the undefeated middleweight prospect. It is, of course, Mr. Bradley Ray. Bradley, welcome back on the show, my man.
Thanks for having me back, mate. Good to be here.
It's good to have you back. So, Brad, we last spoke back in May. It was a couple months after the brilliant Lee Cutler win. Since then, you've had just the one fight. Of course, you're fighting in a couple days' time on this Kell Brook undercard. But yeah, it would be rude not to ask about your last fight against Jez Smith. What a fight. Obviously, Jez Smith isn't an easy night's work for anyone, and even on relatively late notice, he showed that. But tell me about the fight. It was brilliant.
Yeah, it was a great fight to be involved in. It was the type of fight that I've always kind of dreamed of being in, and the fights that I used to enjoy watching as a kid. And I think the fact that it was my boxer debut, and I was on the Sky Sports platform, and you had the commentary, and when I watched it back after it, it was like, wow, this is where I used to kind of aspire to be. So, it was great to be involved in a fight like that. And, I'm just happy so many people enjoyed watching the fight.
And of course, in the fight itself, there were some really testing moments. He won a bunch of rounds. It was the first time for you going 8 rounds as well. Do you feel you learned any valuable lessons in the fight? And if so, what did you learn?
Yeah, definitely. He's a very experienced fighter, Jez, and he's been in there at a high level. So it was. I probably learned more in them 8 rounds than I have done in the rest of my career. There were just little things that I've picked up on and I've tried to implement into this camp, and I'll try and implement into Saturday night. One of the main things for me, which we've talked about with my coach playing and my team, was them shots that you're blocking in sparring with them big 16-ounce gloves on. With them little gloves, they can sneak through. So yeah, it's something we've been working on a little bit more of the lateral movement and slipping and riding shots rather than just taking them on the gloves. Even if they don't feel hard and they don't feel like they're doing damage over time, they can build up. And on Saturday night, I'm not planning on coming out looking black and blue like I was after the Jez Smith fight.
And my last question on Jez Smith, he's of course fighting Hamza Shiraz in Shiraz's first fight up at middleweight, obviously following that controversial win over Bradley Skeet. Jez Smith, of course, been given quite a lot of notice for this one. I know it's a fight that you're looking forward to seeing. How do you see it playing out, Brad?
I think if Shiraz boxes like he did against Skeet, I think it's going to be a very, very hard night's work for him. Jez is no easy night for anyone. Always brings it. And, if he's got a very high work rate, Jez, he throws lots of shots. And if Hamza's not going to match it, like against Skeet, I think Jez could cause nightmares for him, and maybe even pull the upset off. But Shiraz is a very good fighter, and I'm looking forward to see how he gets on at middleweight. You don't know how much kind of making the weight has taken from him, and in his past few fights, and it's another valuable addition to a great division, which I'm involved with, and there's just so many good fights to be made there.
Yeah, no, 100%. And of course, let's talk about your next fight. In just over 48 hours now, you'll be in the ring at the Manchester Arena, a venue I know you, have dreams of headlining one day. In the opposite corner stands this undefeated fighter, Craig McCarthy, a 6'1" southpaw. This is another very risky fight, Brad. A few in a row now for you.
Yeah, it's kind of just my mentality, and it's the type of fights I want to be involved in, and it's 3 in a row, but I don't plan on stopping here. I don't want easy fights. I don't want padded records. I want to be in these big fights and on these entertaining shows, and I want people to be tuning in to watch me, and taking these types of fights are the way to do that.
It's funny because when I look with the bookies, you're the favourite quite big there. But there's this, I don't know if you know about this, there's this like boxing predictions kind of, I don't really know what to call it. It's like a boxing predictions app. And on the app, if you can predict everything right, it's free to play. And you can win like a share of the prize money if you get the most picks right on each week of fights. And when I looked at that, most people were picking, and these are all fans, most people were picking him, which I was quite surprised about. But yeah, it's a great fight. What do you actually know about this guy, Brad? Because I'll hold my hands up and say I haven't seen much of him.
You know what, mate? My team have got a bit of experience and a bit of history with Craig McCarthy before. He's boxed an ex-stablemate of mine that the draw on his record was against my old friend Chris Blaney. So my coach Blaine and Ricky have had a camp against him before, and they've been in the corner against him before. And I was at the fight. I seen it up close and personal, and he's a good fighter, mate. He's undefeated. His game, he comes to win. He comes to have a good southpaw. He's quite tricky. He's quite awkward, and there's a lot of problems there that he can cause. But I'm confident that I've put the work in the gym, and we've got the game plan right. And I think I'm just going to show that I'm a level above him.
And domestically, you touched on it, there's so many brilliant fights to be made, so many big names. You're right up there now amongst these guys, the likes of, Danny Dignam, Denzel Bentley, Brian Rose, Linus Udofia, Nathan Heaney, and a few others. Do any of those fights in particular excite you for the not-so-distant future now?
Yeah, like I said, there's so many at middleweight. For me, all them names that you just... You just reeled off are kind of in a bracket above me at the moment. They're where I'm trying to get to be. They're on 10, 12 round fights, title fights, and I'm pushing to get to that point. But because of my age and because I've got a bit of time on my side, I have the privilege of being able to take my time and get these rounds under my belt. This is another 8-rounder on Saturday night, and I think this is going to be my last 8-rounder before we move up to 10s, and then once I'm at them 10s, that's when I can start looking at these title fights and these bigger names.
I like it. And I want to ask you about the main event on Saturday night, Brad. I'm sure you're going to have your fight, quickly jump in the shower, come back and sit ringside. How do you see the main event playing out, my man?
You know what, mate? I've been saying to everyone who's asked me, it depends what day you ask me. I just keep changing my mind. I've been calm all week. And then, I don't know, just something at the public workout yesterday, I just had this feeling of Brook. I'm not going to sit on the fence, mate. I've been at any interviews before today, I've said can't, but you're getting my mind changed. I'm going for Brook. I think Brook might catch him. But, if you ask me tomorrow, I might be back on Khan. Who knows?
Okay, so at this point, it's Brook. It's a fight, Brad, that has obviously been years and years and years in the making. It's been spoken about for years and years. Do you ever remember kind of being fixed on who you thought would win once upon a time? Or, for most of this time, from about 6 years ago when it was first spoke about?
Yeah, so someone asked me a good question the other day, which was, who do I think is going to win on Saturday? And I said Khan, and is your opinion different if the fight would have happened 6 years ago? And I said, yeah, I think it is. I think back then Kell's timing would have made a big difference. I think like he is maybe getting on a bit, and he's not the fighter he was, and that's why he was picking Khan. For his timing could maybe off, and he wouldn't be able to time the shots. But it's. I think back then, I think Brook would have caught him. But obviously now I've changed my mind anyway, and I think Brook's going to do him anyway.
And I want to ask you, did you happen to see the video of Dominic Ingle downing a glass of Kell's sweat?
I have seen it, yeah. It wasn't for me at all. I don't think I could get my coach doing that anyway.
No. And of course, my last one for you, Brad, obviously it was your birthday yesterday. I'm guessing you did absolutely zero celebrating whatsoever. Will you get to celebrate the birthday after the fight, or would it have just been, too many days late?
No, double celebrations on Saturday night, I think, mate, from another good win, another good performance, and, making up for that lost birthday. There we go. And just finally, Brad, if you've got any closing words to the listeners before we wrap it up, say whatever you like, my friend. The floor is yours. Just massive thank you to everyone, who's been supporting me. I've had a lot of new followers and supporters since the Jez Smith fight, and people seem to like my style, and like the way I come across, and it means a lot to me, and just stay involved because there's so much more to come. Absolutely. They like your style. They like your mentality, your personality. They like the role that you're on. These fights, tough fight after tough fight recently. No one can be disappointed. Listen, Brad, it's always a pleasure speaking with you, my friend. Best of luck for Saturday, and we'll speak afterwards, I'm sure. Thanks so much, mate. I'll speak to you soon. Okay, now it's time for part 2 on this week's show. This part, of course, the news part of the show. I'm going to start here with the fact that friend of the show, David Avenisian, will be fighting on March 19th. That one's going to be at the Wembley Arena. He gets in with a fighter by the name of Oskari, I think his name's Finn Oskari Metz, who's 15-0. He'll be the 5th defence there of David's EBU European welterweight title. Also on the undercard, we get to see Hamza Shiraz getting in with Jez Smith. So all the best there to David Avenisian. He's an undefeated fighter. It's not the fight everyone's searching for, but I think it's kind of a fight I think he needed to take to hold on to the European title. I think the big fight will be coming after this one here. In other news, Chris Colbert is now taking on the undefeated Dominican Olympian Hector Luis Garcia. Garcia, a guy that has had to step in on late notice after the WBA super featherweight world champion Roger Gutierrez has been forced out of the fight with a positive COVID-19 test. So that one again goes ahead February 26th.
What else do we have? Probellum have signed Danny Dignam off of the back of his win on the weekend. What else do we have? Aaron Chalmers, who I believe I think he was in or is in Geordie Shore, a hit reality TV show over here. He had a couple of MMA fights, I believe, but now he's turned to boxing, and he will be fighting on Sky Sports. He signed some kind of promotional contract, I think, with Boxer. He's going to be trained by Adam Booth. So, all the best to him. Haven't seen anything of him. What else do we have? There's going to be a show on March 26th in London. Richard Riakporhe returning to the ring. He gets in with, I think it's Fabio Turchi, or Fabio Turchi, I think he's actually said. The big punching Italian, who I've seen a couple times before. He's not a bad fighter, that Turkey. That's going to be a good fight there. And elsewhere on the undercard as well, it's a good fight I like, between Mikel Lawal, who's 15-0 with 9 KOs. He gets in with 13-0 Dion Juma, who is a fighter really that has... it's been such a slow-burning career he's had. Caroline Dubois as well on the undercard. Chris Congo on the undercard. Zach Chelly on the undercard. So yeah, it's good to see all those guys getting out there. I believe that's it for the news part of the show. Yeah, that is it for the news part of the show. Moving on now then to the preview part of the show. We're going to start here at the Montreal Casino in Montreal, Quebec, Canada. Over here, the main event is really the only fight worth mentioning, but we're going to see Arslanbek Makhmudov, who has a record of 13-0 with 13 KOs. He gets in with Marius Wack, 36-7 these days. That one there for the NABA heavyweight title and the NABF heavyweight title. That is over 10 rounds there. I'm really excited for this guy's future because, big puncher quite clearly. Fresh in terms of his pro career, 6'5.5", Russian of course, 32 years of age, so he's kind of at the peak age, I guess, really for a heavyweight. So I want to see him pushed very soon, and it seems like that's the kind of way he's going to get moved. Been in there with some decent fighters in the amateurs, stuff like that. Got some good wins as well in the amateurs. So yeah, I want to see him pushed, and I think we're going to see it very, very soon. I think he's going to be having those big fights very soon. He's coming off actually 4 first-round knockouts. The first one was against Samuel Peter, December 2019. We know it's not the Samuel Peter of old, the kind of guy that stepped in with Eddie when Eddie beat him.
I like that, Joe. That's right. It's different. This is the total different guy. This one.
Totally different guy. He's no longer the Nigerian nightmare. He's very much the Nigerian wet dream these days. But anyway.
Oh my God! Did you just say that, Joe? Wow.
Hey, listen. We've just come past Valentine's Day. I'm certainly cranking it up here, but yeah, Samuel Peter with a knockout over him back in December 2019, then a knockout in the first round against Dylan Carmen, then a knockout in the first round against Huey Fury victim Pavel Sauer, and then last time out a knockout in the first round against Erkan Tepa. So 4 first round knockouts in a row. He gets in with Marius Wack, who is generally a durable fighter. That's it for that one. Moving out now to Germany at the Universum Gym in Hamburg. Over here, again, just the main event worth mentioning over here. Again, it's another big punching heavyweight. We've got Zan Casabutsuki, 17-0, 16 KOs. It's over 10 rounds for the vacant WBC International Heavyweight title. He gets in with Deontay Wilder victim and Frenchman Johan Duhaupas, who these days is 41 years of age, coming off a win last time out in November of 2021 against a guy with a losing record, but his last real big fight was Tony Yoka, where he was knocked out in a round back in September of 2020, and the last big one before that is when he lost to Big Baby Miller unbelievable how obviously Big Baby Miller, failed that drugs test and now hasn't been in the ring for almost 3.5 years. I think there was some talent there, and it's a shame if we never see him in the ring again, I think. But going off on a bit of a tangent there, getting back on track, this one takes place at the Plaza Monumental in Tijuana, Baja California, Mexico. Over here, good undercard fight. I like this one here. William Zepeda, who's always in a very interesting fight, 24-0, 22 KOs in a 10-rounder against a guy called Yerel Cesar, who's 19-0 with 8 KOs, the Costa Rican fighter born in Nicaragua. So somebody's must go there. I like that fight. What else do we have? The main event really is the main attraction, of course. We've got Jaime Munguia in his 39th pro fight. He's 38-0, of course, coming off that win last time out over Gabe Rosado. It's good to see him back in the ring 3 months later after that. So he likes to be very active. He gets in with the undefeated American from Maryland, Demetrius Ballard, who has a record of 21-0 with 1 draw. I would like to have seen Demetrius Andrade, but Ballard will do. Coming off a good win last time out against Paul Venezuela Jr. Looking down the record, I've seen the name various times because the way he spells his name always stands out. It's D apostrophe Metrius. So it's a cool sounding name, but yeah, got to be honest, haven't really seen much of him, if any. So you'd expect Jaime Munguia to win the fight. It's in Mexico as well. What else do we have? Let's move now to this one here at the RCC Boxing Academy in Ekaterinburg, Russia. This one over here is very interesting, actually. And by the way, if you're a betting man, not that I want to encourage that, but we've got on this card Zur Abdullayev, 14-1, the home fighter, of course, from Russia. The one loss came when he got knocked out, or he retired actually on his stool after just 4 rounds against Devin Haney. Now, people criticise Devin Haney because Devin Haney doesn't really get knockouts, but this is the last guy that he knocked out, which was back in September of 2019. And this guy we thought was quite a decent fighter till he got in the ring with Devin Haney and, like I say, was pulled out in the corner. Prior to this, he had a decent win against Hank Lundy, and he looked quite good there. And really, though, I think he's turned out to not be as good as we were hearing. But however, his last fight was a good win against former world champion Dejan Zlaticanin, who, by the way, these days hasn't done much since getting iced by Mikey Garcia, I think 5 years ago now. So he hasn't done much since then, hasn't looked like the same fighter. That's the guy that Abdullayev beat last time out, but I don't read much into that. He's getting in, though, with Jorge Linares, who I think is a slight underdog, 47-6. His last fight was against Devin Haney, so they share that common opponent there. And remember, Linares went 12 with Devin Haney and had Haney in trouble in the later parts of that fight. So this, for me, I think is a win for Linares, and you can probably make a bit of money betting that. But I'm pretty sure he's a slight underdog. So maybe they're going to, I don't know, maybe he's not going to win it on the cards if it goes to the cards. But I tell you what, it's a really good fight. And Abdullayev isn't really a big puncher either. So, Linares, when he loses, tends to get knocked out. I don't think he's going to get knocked out here. I think he's going to win the fight. So that is where I'll be placing the little bet, I think, this weekend. In other news, we're going to talk about this one here. It is the big one. It's going to be on pay-per-view over here. Not sure where it's being shown in the US. I'm sure it's going to be on TV somewhere. Let's start with this one. On the undercard, the 2020 or 2021, I'm not sure what it was really called, the Olympian, Fraser Clark of the UK. I think he medalled. I think he might have got a silver. He makes his pro debut here. Elsewhere on the card, Vidal Riley, 4-0. He gets in with Wilberforce Shehepo, who's 25-13. We've got Bradley Ray, who we spoke to a few moments ago, 11-0 in an 8-rounder against Craig McCarthy, who's 8-0 with a draw. Somebody's must go. We've got Charlie Schofield, 17-1 in a 10-rounder for the English super middleweight title against the undefeated Jermaine Brown from Kingston upon Thames. We've also got Natasha Jonas, 10-2 with a draw. She gets in with late replacement Chris Namus, who's 25-6. This one's for the vacant WBO World Female Super Welterweight title. Chris Namus, a girl who I think has recently been campaigning at kind of like 154. She's been in with Emma Kozin, who of course went the distance the other week with Clarissa Shields. And I think she might have got stopped once in her 6 losses. I think she's been in with Cecilia Brackhouse as well. She's quite tough. And Natasha Jonas is obviously the naturally smaller girl, coming up in weight as well. Because this one's at 154, I forgot to mention. Or did I just mention it? So yeah, this is a big weight jump really for Natasha Jonas, who's absolutely tiny. I think she's more like a... Do you know what? I need to check it out, because off the top of my head, I'm thinking Natasha Jonas is like a super feather or something like that. She's been campaigning at super feather, at lightweight. Her last one was for no belt, so she weighed in just underneath the limit for super lightweight. But she's certainly not a super welter. I mean, God. So that's going to be interesting. And she's a bit of a puncher, Jonas, but I don't think she's going to be able to put this lady away. So I think Jonas on points there. And hopefully she becomes a world champion, because that was something that we all thought was going to happen. And it didn't happen as soon as most people predicted. And this is probably last chance saloon for her, really. You know what I mean? She's 10-2 with a draw. She's 37 years of age now, so... the clock has been ticking, and this is probably last chance saloon. She's probably not going to get a better chance than this, and the weight isn't ideal, but I think she's going to do it. I really do. I don't think Chris Namus is that great, but certainly has the edge in experience. I think that goes to points, and Jonas gets it. And the main event is about 6 years too late, but you know what? We're still going to tune in with excitement, maybe even more excitement now. Probably not as much excitement, but it's still very exciting, because it's kind of like the battle of who has got the most left, or who is the least shot at this point. We've got Amir Khan, former world champion, of course, 34-5, stepping in with Kell Brook, 39-3 over 12 rounds, no title on the line. Amir Khan hasn't been in the ring for 2.5 years since he knocked out Billy Dib in Saudi Arabia. And Kell Brook, of course, coming off that loss last time out to Terence Crawford back in November 2020. It's a crazy fight, Eddie, because, it's a fight, obviously, that there's been bad blood for years about, and, we wanted to see it years ago. It would have been a great fight years ago. Obviously, as I say, it's still exciting now. The only thing is, Amir Khan is the much more accomplished fighter with the better wins and all the rest of that. But, I mean, how long has Khan not been a world champion for? I'm actually going to have a little sneaky look. He hasn't been a champion since... Boy, we're really going back here. He hasn't been a champion since I think he lost his belt to Lamont Peterson, and hasn't been a world champion since then. That's 11 years ago. This is a guy that certainly has, his best days well behind him. I think Kell Brook became champion after that, didn't he, when he beat Sean Porter. The thing what's a little bit concerning for me is, Eddie, that when you look at Amir Khan's wins at welterweight, he doesn't really have any great wins at welterweight. Obviously, he came up, when he first turned pro, was campaigning at lightweight, wasn't he? I think, and then he moves up to super lightweight, to 140, becomes champion, all the rest of it. When he goes up to 147, he's been in there with Louis Collazo, Devon Alexander, Chris Algieri. And that was really it. He had the fight with Canelo, obviously got knocked out. Had the fight with Phil LaGreco, Samuel Vargas, got stopped by Terence Crawford. Then he had the fight with Billy Dib. His wins, his wins at 147 are not that great. And Kell Brook, as we know, is a huge 147. The fight's being made here at 149. There's concerns that Brook is still going to really struggle with the weight. But, yeah, he certainly punches hard enough, Kell Brook, and we know that Khan doesn't take a shot great. He never has done, and I'm not sure if he'll be able to take a great one in 2022.
Yeah, it's one of those things with this fight. I mean, a lot of people have been waiting for this fight. It would have been so much nicer had both of them been in their prime, but it's just unfortunate it had to happen now. It's kind of like the old folks fight at this point, but I think they're still both, more than good enough to put on a good show, but not to think about, who are they gonna fight next? You know what I mean? Because if we're talking elites, they're not going to be able to stand up under any of the elites at this point, or the serious prospects to challenge or planning in the next year or so to challenge for a major title. But at least we still get the fight. So when you think about the style matchup that goes along with it, I mean, Kell Brook is as advertised. He's a big, strong, talented fighter. And Amir Khan, obviously, blazing speed. You know what I mean? Can throw punches in bunches, has good power. But like we said, at 147, he hasn't really showed a lot of the class that he's been. I mean, don't get me wrong, he still won fights and had good performances, but it's just not been at this weight. And not to mention, to get in there with a guy as big and as good as Kell Brook. And we already know Khan has passed it, so it's going to be a tough one to call, man. I just, I'm think I'm going to favor Kell Brook in this at this point. In Khan's career, I just don't see it being him being able to overcome, where he is now in his career to be able to beat Kell Brook. Kell Brook's, I think it was his last fight was Terrence Crawford, right?
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, and he still looked to be in good form, even though when he got caught, that was it. You know what I'm saying? As he still looked to be in there in doing some decent work. So if at last looks, he's still not terribly, he's not terrible. He's still able to show that he has class. So with that being said, I'm figuring that it's going to be Kell Brook. I'm hoping that Khan can take the shot and make this interesting and make it, make the fight worth watching. You know what I mean? I still think, because we've been waiting for so long, these two great UK guys, even though, I'm a guy from the States, I still like this fight and always would have wanted to see it, but even though it took a while to happen, it's nice to see it's going on, and we'll just see what happens. I mean, at this point, it's still an interesting matchup, style-wise. So I just want to see what happens and see who comes out on top, to be honest.
Yeah, Kell Brook is the favourite with the bookies. Kell Brook, obviously, this will be his 43rd pro fight. This will be Amir Khan's 40th pro fight. Amir Khan, I'm not sure, still has the speed he once had. Kell Brook, I don't think, has the chin he once had, because it really just shocked me how he got caught by Crawford, and it seemed like his punch resistance had gone out of nowhere. And having said that, he didn't look great against, I think it was Michael Zarafa a couple fights before that. Both of them have not really looked, they're past it. It's just as simple as that. They haven't looked great of late. But the thing is, everyone knows it, this is a fight Kell Brook has wanted way more than Amir Khan has wanted. Kell Brook wanted to obviously make this money, this payday, wanted to get this payday, but more than that, there's the grudge there, there's the real genuine bad blood, the real genuine hatred between the pair. And I think that Kell Brook has, he's wanted this fight forever, really, from when it first got spoke about, and Amir Khan wanted to basically take every other option on the table until he was left with just this, and then he would make it happen, because Kell Brook didn't have a bigger dance partner out there than Amir Khan. He never has had it. This is the biggest fight of his career, whereas Khan has got many fights that were big fights, especially in the States. Even him against Malignaggi was a big fight. Him and Zab Judah, him and Danny Garcia, him and Canelo. They've all been big fights, and I think he's ran out of other options, really, Amir Khan. So he's gone, okay, there's no one else to make a fight with. There's no other lucrative money-making offer on the table right now, and now it's time for Kell Brook, which, of course, Kell Brook would probably still fight Amir Khan if he was... he would come out of retirement after 10 years retirement to fight Amir Khan if it could happen. I feel like Kell Brook needed this fight. He couldn't retire without it, and he would have come back at any point for it, even if he didn't have any arms. this is a fight he's always wanted. So I think that Kell Brook will be training like a madman for this fight, because this is bragging rights. This is so deep, and it certainly means a hell of a lot more to Brook than it does Khan. So I'm hoping Khan isn't cutting any corners, and I don't think he is, because he's been out there in the States training with Terence Crawford, which is a bit strange. But obviously Crawford has actually had a fight with both of them. So and obviously more recently with Brook. So it's interesting. There's a lot of things to look at, really. I know that Terence Crawford has actually flown over to the UK as well to help Khan out with some last-minute preparation. So I find that very interesting. They obviously respect Khan a lot in that camp, but I do wonder what the sparring's like in that gym. I don't have any insights into what it's been like. You'd imagine that he's doing a lot of rounds with Crawford. I don't know if that's a good or healthy thing to do before a fight like this. But I've heard from reputable sources that Kell Brook is looking as sharp as ever. Again, I don't know what it's going to be like when he removes the headgear and takes one on the chin, or takes about 50 punches in 5 seconds, which Amir Khan likes to do. And also, we should remember that when you've got those the headgear on, your eyes, your eye socket and stuff like that has padding around it. It's not going to be like that on fight night. When Amir Khan, which he will unload a combination like he does with his quick hands that maybe are not as quick as they used to be. When he unloads that combination to the eyes of Kell Brook, you're gonna find something out. We're gonna see what happens there. Kell Brook says his eyes are fine. He's got metal plates in them, and he's like a robot or whatever he said he is. Terminator, I think he said. But we're gonna see. And Amir Khan, can he take the shots? We don't know. Kell Brook, will his eyes hold up? We don't know. But I think that Kell, providing he can take those shots, for me as well, is a clear favourite. Providing his eye isn't a problem and his punch resistance hasn't completely gone, I think that he is the clear favourite for me. I think, like I say, he's been training like an absolute madman, and I think he'd probably rather die than lose this fight. And I don't say that lightly. I mean what I'm saying. That's how much he hates Amir Khan. That's how much he wouldn't want to go back to his family with a loss on his record to this man of all men. So we'll see, and I hope it's going to be as good as what I've spoke it up to be. It's going to be great. It's a long time coming, and I hope that everyone listening to me can tune in and enjoy it. And I hope it's a great fight. I hope it doesn't come to an end too quickly, but I see it ending. I don't see it going the distance. I see it ending within the distance, and I'm going to say a Brook KO if I was pushed, but I just don't see it going 12 rounds. I really don't see it. But anyway, that is it though for the preview part of the show. In part 1, we did the reviewing. We welcomed our special guest. Then we've just wrapped up the news part and just now the preview part. The final thing for me to do is to come in with the outro, which I'll do in just a few seconds. Okay, and this wraps up episode 331 of the BoxHard Podcast. I've been your host, Joey Coastman. Eddie Chambers has been with me for the duration of the show. A huge thank you to our special guest this week. The man that's fighting in just 48 hours' time is, of course, Bradley Ray. But even bigger than that is the thank you to you, our listeners, for tuning in again and listening to myself and Eddie talk boxing every week, and mainly myself. Just get my boxing thoughts off my chest each and every week. But that's about everything from myself. Enjoy your weekends, people. I know you will. Stay safe, and we shall see you all again next week.